your views welcome. Next, why would one parent turn their child against the other parent? It sometimes happens after the couple separates and the legal battle over custody of the child gets nasty. It's a serious problem and can have a horrible psychological effect on the child involved. It's also hard to recognise, but it is real, and it's called parental alienation. It happened to Emma, who's now 14. Emma's not her real name. She lived with her siblings at her dad's. She says he lied to her about why her mother didn't turn up for access visits. Over time, she began to believe her mother simply didn't care about her anymore. Her words are spoken for her.
It's the impact on the child that can be the most damaging. 14-year-old Emma was 7 when her parents divorced. Over the next 2 years, she was severely alienated from her mother by her father.
My brother went away from home to my dad's because my dad was saying he could give them everything he wanted and he wouldn't get in trouble for anything. And when he went away, me, my brother and my sister would never been separated, so it was if my brother's going, I want to go, because we were siblings and siblings stick together. So I went and my sister followed.
For a time the kids had contact with their mum, but that was soon stopped.
He'd ring up and say, oh, the kids are busy, we're going to do something, they can't see their mum today. And my mum would be already halfway there and she'd get the phone call to say that we're busy and that we can't see her.
Did you know that at the time?
No. At the time, all we knew was that my mum had let us down and that she'd been out drinking on the night before and that she had a hangover, so she couldn't be bothered to come. And it was just what we were lied to.
When your dad would say things to you like, oh, your mum's got a hangover, she's not coming today, what did you think?
I thought that my mum was never like that my mum would never drink loads, she's not that type of person, but if that's what my dad's saying, I believe him, that she's a liar, that everything that's happened is her fault, that she doesn't love us, that she's being a bully towards him and us, and that's why we've behaved the way we have.
In other countries, governments have brought in legislation to try to stop parental alienation, and there are calls for it to be recognised here legally. Let's talk now to Anthony Douglas, who is the CEO of CAFCAS. That's the organisation that represents children in the family courts. Joanna Abrahams is here, a family lawyer who specialises in parental alienation cases. And the Liberal Democrat MP Greg Mulholland is here too. He thinks further research is needed into this. Welcome all of you. Why isn't it recognised in the legal system, Anthony Douglas?
We do recognise parental alienation and alienating behaviours. They're very common in particularly intractable high conflict cases, and each day family court professionals are assessing the impact of alienating behaviours on children.
It's not recognised formally in the sense that if a parent is deemed to be guilty of it, they would be punished, as in other countries.
We have some of the same characteristics, say, as Brazil, because in this country we do, as a final measure, remove children from one parent who has been doing the alienating to live with another. But that has to be done after very careful assessment, because if you're living in an alienating environment, it's like living in a cult, and that belief system is so powerful, if you remove a child from it, even though the merits are with the other parent, it can be equally damaging for children. So to criminalise parental alienation is normally not as good as working intensively with a family early to try to help them go beyond pure unfiltered emotion to a space in which there's some reason and some understanding of the impact of the alienation on children. But you're right, we don't have a specific legal provision, but I think your programme is a good illustration that a number of us across the system could usefully get together perhaps to introduce stronger guidance, because the knowledge about these cases is much stronger than it was 5 years ago, particularly the impact on children.
It's, I mean, it's for most parents, you would think, why would you turn a child against the other partner from from whom you've separated. Why do people do it? Both mums and dads are capable of this.
That's right, it is both mums and dads. Sometimes it's not always done consciously. There could be a lot going on, and obviously we don't know about it. And there are frequently subconscious messages going out to the child, and the child will naturally pick up on them.
Like what, for example?
The fact that mum is unable to give emotional permission to the child to have contact with dad, and becomes highly anxious before the child goes, and the child will pick up on that, and then is unsettled, certainly if he is seeing dad to start with. It takes a lot of time and reassurance to the child, it's okay, you can go and see your father, and sometimes people need help with that.
Do you think the problem is a lot more than officially recognised?
I think it's starting to become more and more recognised. We've certainly got the moniker now of parental alienation, which we didn't have about 5 years ago. And more experts are being brought in to diagnose it. So what we often ask for when we go to court is for a psychologist to become involved. They can make the diagnosis. They can assist us with a plan for targeted therapy. And then
for the child?
For the parents, actually.
Okay, that's interesting.
Quite often for the parents, because the children can become over-medicalised. They see lots of experts, and it can be too much for them. And then the parents can address whether there are problems with mum or with dad. It's not necessarily a recrimination or a blame culture. It's really looking, it has to be child-centric. What's in the best interest of the child, and how we can promote contact, assuming, of course, it's in that child's best interest.
Sure. Greg Mulholland, what do you think about the current legislation in the UK and whether it protects enough victims of alienation?
Well, I think it's important to use that word victim, and the victims are the children as well as the parent who suffered from the alienation. It is something, of course, sadly, that happens in many cases, and MPs up and down the country get cases of separation that has gone very badly, and this is one of the things in there. You say, why do people do it? I'm afraid people can lose a lot of sense of rationality and reasonableness in the face of an unpleasant and messy divorce, and that's very sad. Where I do think there is a problem is that where there clearly is evidence of parental alienation, I don't think that is taken seriously by CAFCAS and by the family courts, to the extent that people even making entirely false allegations of sexual abuse by a parent are not punished. There is no sanction whatsoever in cases like this.
All right, well, let Anthony Douglas respond to that.
We have a duty to investigate every allegation, clearly, because some have proven true. Equally, we can't say just because a child has been brainwashed by one parent against another that that child is not, doesn't have complex feelings and complex wishes and needs. And so to get to the bottom of each case and to understand the complexity of it does take a little bit of time. And that's our bread and butter. We do need to have a stronger culture of urgency, because the longer a child is kept apart from one parent, the harder it is to re-establish a relationship, as I think your film showed. To try to do that in any relationship 6 or 7 years on is nigh on impossible. The bond has gone.
Sorry,
you are entirely ducking the point, Anthony, as well you know, and that's disingenuous. You know full well that where there have been clearly false allegations of sexual abuse against one parent, CAFCAS does nothing, and that is not acceptable. You've just completely ignored that point. That's not an acceptable thing to do.
Well, it's not true, because we have, once that is established, that the allegations are false, we will often then recommend that, as I say, in the final analysis, it may be right for the child to move to the other parent. But
that's
that
not
isn't
the same as taking action, Anthony. That's not the same as taking action, as well you know.
Well, I think
can I step in
well
here,
you
because CAFCAS can make recommendations, but it's up to the judiciary to consider them and decide how they need to be implemented, if at all.
A false allegation made in any other circumstance would be, or could be, regarded as a criminal offence. In this case, CAFCAS do nothing about it. They may sometimes recommend a different custody arrangement, a different care arrangement, but they knew nothing about false allegations, and that is a problem.
I think, Greg, you're oversimplifying the nature of these allegations.
That's absolutely factual, Anthony, as well you know.
Let Mr. Douglas respond.
The nature of these allegations, there are few clear, hard facts in family cases. They're often ambiguous. They're often different people's words, one against the other, with a child caught in the middle. And to produce a rounded analysis that is safe for that child does take a little bit of time. And you can't oversimplify it into punish one parent, because generally the punishment of a parent rebounds on a child who will feel part responsible for it.
All right, thank you very much, all of you. Thanks for coming on the programme. Thank you for your time. Worth saying that a lot of people getting in touch with us are dads saying that it's mostly mums who do this, who are guilty of parental alienation, but it is, as we said earlier, possible for both mums and dads to do this.